Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I am here with Noah Fleischman, and we are here for our first game day preview of the 2024 season. It is officially game week in Raleigh. NC State kicks off its season on Thursday night at 7 p.m. against Western Carolina, an FCS squad that has an explosive offense, a defense that gave up a good amount of points last year and lost a few key players. So we're going to break everything to do with the Catamounts down in this episode. We're also going to talk about NC State's first depth chart and just what we want to see out of NC State in week one. Because realistically, this should be an easy win for the Wolfpack. But there's still a lot you can take away from a game like this, especially when it's in week one like it is. It's kind of a weird feeling, Noah. The past couple years, NC State started the season against ECU and UConn, and while folks went into those games expecting them to be blowouts, they were both a little bit too close for comfort at times. This one shouldn't be. This should be a blowout, and so we're going to focus on just what we want to see from this NC State roster from top to bottom during Thursday night's clash against the Catamounts. Before we do that, a quick housekeeping note is that we're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That is NC State's site on the On3 network, the fastest growing college football, basketball recruiting site out there. And right now, there's no better place to prepare for NC State's football season. We've already posted several recruiting scoops on a few top 100 recruits that are going to be on campus for the Western Carolina game. We have features on some of the key players that are going to be new faces on the field this season, all up on the Wolfpacker.com. And we just published a detailed scouting report. We're going to talk about Western Carolina on today's show, but we took a deeper look into them in the scouting report that's up on the Wolfpacker.com right now. Right now, you can get 50% off an annual subscription to the Wolfpacker right now by going to the Wolfpacker.com and using code KICKOFF24. And that gets you 50% off a year. That's a great deal, and is really not going to get better than that this football season. That deal expires tonight. So you have the rest of today, the rest of Tuesday to take advantage of that deal before it expires. Go check it out, 50% off your first year at thewolfpacker.com. Noah, let's talk about some football, man. I don't know about you, but I am very excited to be talking about an actual upcoming game. I think we've speculated about as much as we can speculate. It is time to just dive in to what the season's actually going to look like for the Pack. Let's start with the depth chart. So they put out the first official depth chart. You had put together depth chart projections throughout the off season, and I think you definitely got like an A in terms of accuracy on this one, but there were a few surprises on there. Which one really jumped out to you when you were looking at the official depth chart?
Yeah, just Matt McCabe, I think, moving in tight end. Obviously, changing his number from 66 to 47, even though 66 jersey will still be on the sideline, most likely because he's the backup at either guard spot. But, I think that's the biggest thing. He was battling for Anthony Carter at left guard, didn't win the job, but they said, hey, we've got a plan for you. Let's move you to tight end spot, be a blocking tight end. He came in number 1 on the depth chart of tight end, which was interesting. And they're going to use him as that big body guy, similar to they did with Jacarius Peak at the beginning of last season. Isaiah Shirley was featured in that role last year. He will be back in that role a little bit again this year as well. They got 2 options there, but I think that was the biggest. Everything else was pretty much as expected, going into the season.
Yeah, as far as like the 2 deep goes, Devin Boykin's not on there yet. He's still recovering from his ACL injury. That's not a surprise if you've listened to us this offseason. Like there was speculation that he could be ready for the start of the year, but he tore his or had some sort of ACL injury in
he had knee surgery
in late December. So it's like, of course, it makes perfect sense why he's not ready to play football again. August 29th, but they should get him back at some point this year. And fortunately, they have enough safety depth to withstand that. So right now, it'll be Bishop Fitzgerald at strong safety and DK Kaufman at free safety. So that's not a surprise, but noteworthy nonetheless. DJ Jackson winning the backup nose tackle battle. He's someone that folks, I don't think really expected to contribute after the spring. But he showed up at fall camp and really impressed folks and earned that backup role. And then as far as the receivers go, there's 4 freshman in the 3 deep. So that's if you're counting Noah Rogers, of course, as a freshman there because he's a redshirt freshman. But then you have the Terrell Anderson, Jonathan Paylor, and Keenan Jackson, who could all see snaps and should see snaps on Thursday at least. So I'd say those were my main takeaways, man. Was there anything else? It's cool to see Missouri transfer Val Erickson in the 2 deep. Hadn't heard a ton about him this offseason, so good to see that the SEC transfer is doing well for himself. Establishing himself as Tim McKay's backup. But is there anything else depth chart wise that you want to really dig into today?
Yeah, I think it was mainly the only other thing that we didn't really know was there gonna be an or next to CJ Bailey and Lex Thomas. There's not. CJ Bailey is listed ahead. There's not many ors on the depth chart. There's a couple.
Yeah.
There's one at corner, right? When you look at the back at Brandon Cisse or Corey Coley, and you look at Devin Marshall or Jackson Vick. Then there's an or long snapper, which is an interesting thing. They're replacing Joe Shemko, who never recorded a bad snap in the eyes of NC State's coaching staff. They kind of grade you every snap that they have. Didn't have one. 5 years as a starting long snapper. Won the Malley Award, which goes to the best long snapper in college football last year. He's gone. He's working his way in the NFL, trying to land and stick a spot there. They tried to replace him. They had a battle all camp between Aiden Arias and Jake Mann. No clear winner. There's an or next to those names. Interesting to see what they do. Could have like a medium snapper and a long snapper, or medium snapper, one snapper that's good at field goals and one snapper that's good at punt. We'll see what happens. I don't know what they'll do. We'll keep an eye on that on Thursday night. But that might be interesting for Caden Noonkester to catch 2 different snappers in the same game, different spin of the ball. Might be interesting. Might be a little adjusting for him. But we shall see. Otherwise, everything else is good to go. And one note on DJ Jackson, good to see him back healthy. He's missed the last 2 years due to injury. He's healthy. He's on the 2 deep. We will see him play Thursday night. And I think that's a big thing. The D-line, if you're on the 2 deep on the D-line, they're playing. The amount of times that they rotate this defensive line group, you'll see, 6 to 8 guys throughout the game, especially on Thursday night. We'll see a ton. But, against Tennessee, don't be surprised to see DJ Jackson out there for a few snaps every drive just to give Brandon Cleveland some break because he's going to be out there a lot this year.
Yeah, I mean, look at the depth chart, and they have 8 defensive linemen listed, and that's not just like a courtesy, inclusion. I think there's a very real possibility you're seeing 8 players in the defensive line rotation for NC State this year. Of course, there's the starting 3, and then you have Noah Potter listed as Davin Van's backup, Red Hibbler listed as Travali Price's backup, and Isaiah Shirley in that right end spot as well. Red's obviously going to be a pass rushing specialist, so we'll see if he's also just the primary backup, or if you see Isaiah Shirley then being the primary backup on downs 1 and 2. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it's a very deep unit, very, very deep. You mentioned special teams, and did just want to throw in that now it's official that Hollywood Smothers is going to be the kick returner. He's an explosive athlete, had a really, really good scrimmage. Last week, was it? Or 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. So he's someone that expectations are kind of rising for him. So I was a huge fan of him coming out of high school. Cool to see it starting to work out for him at the college level. But I think that's it for receiver wise, man. It's a deep team. You mentioned the lack of ors. I thought that was interesting because if you go back and look at last year's first depth chart, it was everywhere. There were almost like every position it seemed like had an or somewhere. It seemed like things got way more sorted out this offseason. Like the roles are defined, and but there's also just so many players that the Pac was comfortable playing this season. And I'd say if you look at the total number of names on the depth chart, you do have a Jackson Vick in the 2 deep, 3 deep at corner. He's someone that we weren't sure if he was going to crack the depth chart. Jalen Coit and Jonathan Paylor listed as the backups for inside receiver. Both of them are there. And then you have 3 deep at left tackle with Rico Jackson and Darian Rivers, 2 redshirt freshmen that are looking to establish a role. So there's a lot of youth in the backups and the third strings that it's going to be exciting to see how they grow. But then you're just comfortable with the graduates, the seniors, the redshirt juniors that is in the starting lineup. So it's just a well-constructed roster is really what pops out to me.
Yeah, it is. And I think the last thing to note on this is one other part that they went 4 deep on is running back. And Duke Scott made the 2 deep, right? Last year at signing day, Dave Doran talked about if Duke Scott was on the 2023 roster, he's playing. He's playing during the season. And it seems like he's playing the 2024 season as being a freshman on the 4 deep, if you want to put it, listed fourth behind Jordan Waters, Kendrick Raphael, and Hollywood Smothers. But those two have an oar next to each other too. So we'll see where they go with that second back. It's going to be a lot of running back by committee behind Jordan Waters, I feel like, this year. He's obviously going to be the main guy. But behind him, they've got a ton of talent all over the field. We've talked about it all year. Finally, on Thursday night, we're going to see a bunch of this talent because I imagine NC State is going to bounce snaps when we get into the fourth quarter.
Perfect segue, Noah. Let's talk about what we want to see Thursday night. Going up against Western Carolina. Again, in an ideal world for NC State, this game's over after the first quarter. Backups are in midway through the third at the latest. So when you're watching the starting unit, the first bit we get to see out of them, for however long that is, what do you want to see out of the starting offense?
I want to see explosiveness. I want to see a fast start, and I want to see them settle in, right? This is a team that's really explosive. You talk about the receivers. Kevin Concepcion, we know what he does. But Noah Rogers getting his first actual taste of playing at NC State. Wesley Grimes doing the same thing. Grayson McCall taking his first snaps under the lights in front of a packed house. That'll be fun too. I just want to see them come out and have a quick start. That first drive is going to be fun to watch. See how quick it takes for them to settle into a game. And obviously people want to see points. And I think that, against a Western Carolina defense that isn't very complex. It's not as complex as you'll see against Tennessee in week 2 or Clemson in week 4. So I think that's the thing. Fast start, explosiveness, and we'll see from the starters. I imagine they'll play, into the third quarter, and we'll see. That's the interesting thing. I'm sure we can talk about it later. But how quickly they get pulled is the question with Tennessee in week 2, and you want to build chemistry with the team with a lot of new faces. So we'll see what they do with that. But overall, quick start, explosiveness, and touchdowns. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, I want to see points by being boring, right? Like I want NC State to be able to keep things super vanilla. You're starting Matt McCabe at tight end. That you're basically just playing a 6 offensive lineman. And when you're
he can catch a touchdown pass. He can catch.
Hey, well, that goes into my point. I hope we don't see that this week, right? Like I hope they save that play for Tennessee or Clemson or someone down the road. But this game, I hope it is lining up and they're just handing it off to Jordan Waters up the middle. And they are being successful doing that. Let Jordan Waters and the rest of that running back room cook. They shouldn't need to be putting, a KC or Jonathan Paylor in the backfield. They shouldn't have to be, making things interesting. Like just straight up vanilla offense, and they have the talent on this team. They invested so many resources into the transfer portal to bring in such a talented group in offensively this year. They should be able to keep things super boring and still blow out Western Carolina. So that's what I'm looking for. I hope this is the Jordan Waters' assertion that he is one of the top running backs in the ACC. He just comes out and shows that off the bat. That's the main thing I'm going to be looking for.
So you don't want to see any pop passes this week, Ethan?
No, save Casey Concepcion's arm for later in the season, man. I know he can throw it. We saw it last season. But and then of course Dave Doran said it on the ACC Network special that he might be NC State's second best passer this season or third best passer. So it's like, all right, but let's save that. Not against Western Carolina, folks. Let's save that for later in the year and just let them be successful getting the ball to Casey in other ways. Defensively, though, man, what do you want to see from that side of the ball? Obviously, I think a few more question marks just on how that defense is going to gel post the departure of Peyton Wilson, something we've, debated frequently this offseason. Yeah. But in game 1, going up against a, high-flying passing offense, what do you hope to see?
2 things. I want to see what this secondary can do. Obviously, Aiden White's locking down the cornerback room on that one side, but Brandon Ceesay's first taste of starting on the outside, so we'll see what he can do. And also, I want to see what DK Kaufman has, in the secondary. He's a hard-hitting safety. 5'11", not the biggest guy in the world, or 5'10" even, not the biggest guy. 215, though. He can hit coming from Auburn. He can play. I want to see him, fly around. then the other one is just, what does Sean Brown do? Making this move from safety to linebacker. He's going to be a busy guy, I think, on Thursday night. We'll talk about it later, but Cole Gonzalez is a throwing quarterback. We just listened to the part of, their head coach's press conference today, and he was like, doesn't matter if they're down 70-0, they're throwing the ball. So NC State's defense will get tested through the air. They've got a good quarterback on the other side. It's the SoCon Player of the Year from a year ago. So we'll see what happens. But I think the secondary is big, and also how Sean Brown's, adjustment and transition, his first live game reps against a new team and not against an offense that hasn't seen him in practice, will be big.
Yeah, same position group for me. I'm going to be watching Devon Betty pretty closely. He's someone that, had positive flashes from last year, but I think moving him from Mike back to outside will be a good move. He said himself during fall camp that he thought he played his best football as an outside linebacker in 2021. And the numbers back that up. That's when he had his career high in tackles and in a rotational role as well. So I think I'm going to be watching him pretty close just to see how he looks out there. Western Carolina likes to get their running backs involved in the offense, and that could mean that Betty bears some of that responsibility, covering the backside of the backfield, and we'll see what that looks like for him and how he handles that responsibility. He's in good shape coming into this season. He dropped about 5 pounds to play the Sam spot. He's at 227 right now, and this is his last year, and he's going to go out there and make the most of it as an outside linebacker. And then, like you said, watching Sean Brown, by all accounts, he's going to be a star this year. So just looking forward to seeing, if he comes out and has, how many tackles did Peyton Wilson have against UConn last year? I think it was like 18 or something in the season debut, some ridiculous number. Not expecting that much from Sean Brown since he will play, probably a half, 3/4 of this game, but just looking for an impressive debut from NC State's new Wilt linebacker. All right, we're going to dive into some Western Carolina specifics. Before we do that, I did want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. Whether you're looking for some last-minute tickets Thursday, looking for tickets to a concert, a comedy show, whatever you could need, Game Time has it. I use it. Noah uses it. Super easy to use platform. I have it on my phone. You can find it on any app store just search up Game Time or look it up on your web browser at gametime.co. My favorite thing about the app by far is that when I log on, it takes a step out of the seat ticket buying process by just showing you the view from your seat. I'll hold it up for those watching on YouTube. I have NC State's season opener pulled up here. And look, if you bought these tickets, you can see the exact view from your seat. Just takes a step out of the ticket buying process and makes that whole thing easier. Right now, you can find a ticket to the Western Carolina game for $16. So go check that out. Good deals on the Game Time app or on your web browser at gametime.co and use code Wolfpack, that's all caps Wolfpack, for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Noah, let's talk Catamounts. Western Carolina, as we kind of hinted at earlier, super explosive offense. So far, Cole Gonzalez, their quarterback, had a great year last year as a sophomore. He's back for his junior season. He's the preseason Southern Conference Offensive Player of the Year. Last year, he threw for 2,800 passing yards and 28 touchdowns to go against 8 interceptions, made the first all-conference first team, and also had the third highest rushing total on Western Carolina at 203 yards. He's kind of the engine that makes that whole place go. And Noah, they led all of FCS last season with 504 yards of total offense per game. When you look at Western Carolina's offense, what really stands out about that unit?
Yeah, they throw the ball a ton. We've talked about that. Cole Gonzalez, I think, is a really, intriguing player. I think he's a game-changing kind of player at the FCS level. There's a reason why he won their Player of the Year a year ago. He's just a coach's kid. Dave Doran has known him for a while. He's friends with his dad, who coaches wide receivers at the University of Florida. So he's no stranger to playing in this environment. He started 11 games last year. He's played really, really well. This is a team that went to Arkansas a year ago. They lost, but they've played in the big-time environment and in front of a big crowd. So I don't think the crowd is going to cause as much of a a difference in these kids' heads of coming into a stadium for the first time in front of 56,000 and seeing that this isn't their first rodeo, and that they seem pretty confident. And I think that's the biggest thing is what can they do to limit Cole Gonzalez? Because it's a good test. This isn't VMI from a year ago. This isn't, an FCS pushover team. I also think this is a better spot to have your FCS game week 1 coming off of fall camp, seeing what you got, obviously going into a really big game the following week. But he's a quarterback that's not a pushover. He's going to test his defense, and I think that is exactly what Tony Gibson wants. I don't think they want a quarterback that's come in and throw 5 picks. He might, but at least they will be challenged by a guy that can throw the ball around, that is mobile, and that is a game-changing kind of player for them.
Yeah, I agree. NC State should blow out Western Carolina, but they'll test it. It'll be at least some sort of test. There are much worse FCS teams that NC State could have played in week 1. And Gonzalez, I'm going to be interested, man, to see if they can get to him in terms of generating sacks and generating pressure. He only took 7 sacks last year. Like that, obviously the yards and the touchdowns are impressive, but that honestly was maybe the most impressive number that he had. Like, how do you only taking 7 sacks over an entire season of football? That's impressive to me. It is worth saying that in his one game against Power 5 competition or FBS competition in general, you mentioned the Arkansas game. He went 9 for 14 for 118 yards and 1 interception. Of course, that is as he hadn't become like the, preseason offensive player of the year, Cole Gonzalez yet, right? Now he is. I expect they're going to throw the ball a lot more than 14 times in this game.
Right? Might double that.
Yeah, no, seriously. So I think they're going to air it out. It is worth noting they've lost their leading rusher and receiver to the transfer portal. Desmond Reed and Sincere Lee both transferred to Pittsburgh. So the Panthers came in and poached 2 of their top playmakers. Their best returning receiver is AJ Colombo, who's a 5'8" receiver who caught 31 passes in 2023. He was a preseason all-conference selection despite, his limited workload last year. He's a 5'8" receiver, assuming he's going to line up in the slot, right? So that's Jahad Carter's matchup. Maybe a good test early for the Ohio State transfer. But yeah, I think if they can take care of that, and then the other guy I wanted to highlight is their running back, Branson Adams Jr., who, he was their second leading rusher last year, but played a big role. He was super, super efficient, averaging 6.1 yards per carry and racking up 539 yards last season. He's a 5'9" back, so a smaller, 185-pound running back. But they use him in the passing game a lot too. He caught 36 passes last year and scored 4 touchdowns. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be watching to see how the linebackers do in pass coverage. That's something that I think the unit as a whole struggled at times last year. So we'll see how they take a step forward in that, hopefully for the Pack in this year against a team that likes to use their back in pass coverage. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. They gave up, I believe, it was 27.7 points per game last year. So that's, a lot of points. They got blown out by Arkansas. Arkansas put 50 on them. Noah, does anything stand out about their defense when you look at how Western Carolina is going to try to slow down Grayson McCall and the Wolfpack?
Not really. I think this is a defense that, Grayson McCall talked about it yesterday of, they're not very multiple, so they're not very complex. They can kind of figure it out. I think this is a good game for the offense we talked about earlier to get going. I think Western Carolina, not Coastal Carolina. Western Carolina, I believe their offense is going to provide more of a test for NC State's defense than Western Carolina's defense will provide a test for NC State's offense, which is okay. I think they'd rather it that way when you go into a game like this. So, I think that this will be a game that they can try to get the offense rolling.
It should quite simply be a confidence builder, right? This should be a game where you come out of it. Grayson McCall and Noah Rogers feel a little bit better about their connection. Jordan Waters feels a little bit better about running behind this offensive line. Zeke Correll feels a little bit better about playing with new teammates alongside him, right? It's just a confidence-building game going into Tennessee. And you just want to see efficient, again, boring football. I know it's not what NC State fans necessarily want to hear for those going to the game, looking forward to watching the Pack, but they should be able to have fireworks by being boring in this game. So I think, as we move on into the predictions portion of this podcast, Noah, safe to say we're both picking the Pack here.
Yeah, I think so. I think we are. I'll give you a score if you want it. I'll go 40. Go 47-3. That's what we'll go. Just to give you some background information, NC State has played Western Carolina 7 times. They've won all 7 games. They averaged 47 points. There was a game in 1990. They won 67-0, and Western Carolina didn't get a first down. I do think the Catamounts have a better offense than that this year, but I think NC State's defense keeps them off the scoreboard for most of the game, and they get a field goal.
Yeah, mine's similar. I'm going to go 45-10. I think Western Carolina will score a touchdown late against, the third string defense that's, filled with a lot of freshmen, redshirt freshmen, inexperienced guys. I think you'll see that. But, yeah, it should be straightforward dominance by the Pack and give some fans some reason to be very excited about the offense going into next week's big test against the Volunteers. To wrap up the predictions portions, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to pick the leading rusher, receiver, and tackler for the Wolfpack. Noah, who's going to lead NC State in rushing? It's a little more difficult when you don't know how the rotations are going to work out, especially in a game against an FCS team.
Yeah, I'll go with Jordan Waters. I think they're going to feed him, at least in the first half, and I think he'll break off a big run and then really rack it up there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Jordan Waters' dominance. Like I said, I think he's one of the best backs in the ACC. I think he's going to be the best running back NC State has had since at least Bam night and maybe earlier. So I think he comes out and here you go. 75 yards by the end of the first quarter.
He could get that on one run. You never know.
Yeah, first play from scrimmage. I'll call my shot. He breaks it off. He gets to the end zone, first play from scrimmage. But I think he's going to have a big day. I don't know if he'll be in the game long enough to get to the 100-yard mark, but I think that is a reasonable expectation for the graduate transfer from Duke. What about receiving? Who's going to be the Pack's leading pass catcher?
This is where it's going to get a little interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of options. We've talked about the depth chart. There's a ton of guys on this wide receiver core that are going to play against Western Carolina. I will go with an underrated player to lead the team in receiving. We haven't even talked about him yet. Give me Justin Jolie to lead the team in receiving yards.
I think one of my hottest takes for the year that I've just kind of been batting around. I don't think I've brought it up on the podcast yet, man, but I think there's a world where Justin Jolie leads this team in receiving. Like
it's just a possibility.
I think it's just a possibility. You look at Robert and I's teams in the past, right? Like it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of at all.
And you look at Grayson McCall's history in the past.
Right.
Anytime he has an elite tight end, he finds him. Isaiah Likely, obviously one of the best tight ends he's ever played with in his life, probably. He was one of the Coach Carolina's leading receivers for 2 years, turned into a fourth-round pick by the Baltimore Ravens, and is playing extremely well at the next level. But Grayson McCall likes to find his tight ends over the middle. Justin Jolie fits this mold that from Robert and I and Grayson McCall. I think we'll see a little preview of that.
For my receiver pick, there's been one play that's been just kind of rattling around in my brain this week, and it's Wesley Grimes' 90-yard touchdown in the spring game. I'm picking him to lead the Pack in receiving in week 1 because I think he's just going to be able to, especially if he's in there with the second unit, I think he's going to be able to torch Western Carolina's defensive backs. He's too fast, too skilled, and I think he's going to break off a few big plays and play a little bit longer maybe than the starting unit. And I think he could have a bit of a coming out party himself. I think he'll have a good day. What about tacklers? Who's going to step up? And this is going to be maybe a more interesting conversation than it was last year, where we just picked Peyton Wilson every week. Who do you think is going to lead the Pack in tackles Thursday night?
Game 1, I'm feeling bold today, so I'm not going to go with the usual suspect. Give me DK Kaufman to lead the team in tackles.
Okay, making plays in the box. I like it. I'll go with the guy. I think all of the viewers are probably screaming at their radios or TV screens or whatever right now. I'm going to pick Sean Brown. Yeah. I think he's going to be in a position to make a lot of plays. Just a matter of if he can make them. By all accounts, everyone around that program is very confident that he'll be able to. We were both super high on him last season, thought he played extremely well, especially down the stretch of the year. So high expectations for Sean Brown, high expectations for DK Kaufman. I'm excited to see how that defense continues to gel. And I am excited to watch some real Wolfpack football, Noah. I am fired up. I can't wait to be there with you Thursday night in Carter Finley Stadium. It's going to be exciting, man.
It's going to be blessed. Can't wait. We've talked about football for so much. Now we get the season football on a Thursday, so sooner than most teams will see it. And then you got to wait 9 days for the next game. But we'll take it one day at a time, one game at a time. Football at Carter Finley, and we'll be back here on Friday for a special edition post-game pod.
Yeah, if this is your first time kind of watching us during the season, we like to do usually our pregame pods will be on Thursdays, and then the post-game pod will be Sunday morning. Just so you know, that's when our usual publishing schedule this week. We will have it up on Friday morning, just our reactions from this game. We will talk to you all then, and please go check out our work on the Wolfpacker.com. We go all out for game previews and game coverage and game reaction. So we will see you all there and back on your podcast feeds Friday morning. Thanks for watching, folks.